Now, from the studios of Into Tomorrow in Miami, this is ITTV.
Advertising is broken. Our next guest set out to fix it with a self-hosted advertising platform. The co-founder and CEO of a company called AdHash is Martin Stoev. Martin, welcome Into Tomorrow. How are you, sir? Joining us from a trade show in Canada.
Thank you very much for having me. Yeah, I'm great, and it's very busy and very noisy here, as you can probably see behind me.
Yes, but that's a good thing because it hopefully is good for you and your business. Tell us a little bit about AdHash. What is the company? What is it that you do? How is it that you're fixing advertising?
Yeah, well, it's a very loaded question that's become increasingly popular with the general public over the past decade or so. We have always used advertising to monetize the open internet and the free distribution of information. We think that's a super important thing to do, and it provides a great business model for democratizing information. However, unfortunately, especially over the past decade, the big tech monopolies have really made it very difficult for the internet user to browse the open web freely without being tracked everywhere and without being surveilled on every step of their way. And at AdHash, we like to say that we try to sell products to people without turning people into products. So the essence is to create a more ethical, more privacy-preserving advertising that still works and performs well for both the content creator and the advertisers.
Well, very good. So obviously, anything that you can do to help all of us as users of the web, and that's basically the planet for the most part, certainly sounds like it would make a better idea. And you got a lot of our attention when you talked about anything you can do to help us being tracked all the time. That's, I think, become a major issue, and folks are just kind of getting tired of it. It's enough already. You know, you might ask one question, or even worse, talk to someone, and somehow it seems a device picked up on it, and all of a sudden now you're bombarded for the next month with ads for some item you may have mentioned. And that's driving people nuts, and I don't blame them for that. Do you deal with those issues?
Yes, we do. And it's a multifaceted issue, actually, because not only do you get bombarded with those ads, which is a result of tracking, but also you don't really have any recourse of stopping them, which is super frustrating.
Yeah.
As a user, you should have the ability to voice your opinion as to what you want to be targeted with and what you don't want to be targeted with, and also know why you're being targeted by a specific brand or a specific ad campaign. So we're trying to tackle all of those issues, provide as much transparency to the end user as possible. But there are also other aspects that are built up because of this entire tracking infrastructure, whereas you have hundreds and hundreds of different companies who are following you everywhere and trying to create a profile on you and trying to store information, which not only results in poor user privacy, it also results in a terribly large carbon footprint, which now the industry is finally starting to realize and starting to take action on. So it's a seemingly a simple problem of companies trying to learn about you as much as possible, but it has negative aspects in all sorts of real-world scenarios, not just our privacy aspect, but also the impact on the environment.
You know, and as we're talking, I'm hard-pressed to think of an occasion where one of those kinds of ads has helped me in any way. I mean, if I'm searching for something, I'm going to search for it, right? I'm going to find what I need. I don't need to be bombarded with subsequent ads that just seem to never stop on my phone, on my browser, on the computer, whatever. And it's like, well, I'm not clicking on them. That's the worst thing to do as far as I'm concerned. You think it's bad now. Wait till you click on one. Now everybody's in on it. So anything you could do to help us with that is terrific. So you're working then with advertisers, I'm assuming, or brands to help make it better for those of us end user consumers?
Yes. Our thesis is that you don't need to track users in order to be able to show them products that are relevant. Most of the advertising industry is focused on what's happening inside your browser and what they can infer about you as a consumer from the data they collect there. AdHash, on the other hand, focuses on all the signals surrounding you that are not personally identifiable to you. That would be, for example, the context of what you're reading. So, if you're reading an article about the best ski slopes in the Alps in Switzerland, then you'll probably get ads about ski or snowboarding equipment.
Yeah.
And that just enhances the experience of browsing the web. Instead of trying to constantly track you and force you into buying something. But in addition to that, we also take into account a lot of real world factors that impact purchasing decisions. That might be sports results or sports events happening nearby. It could be changes in the weather conditions outside. So, for example, if the advertiser would be a food delivery company, they would be advertising when the weather is bad, because that's when people are less likely to go outside and they're more likely to order. And we have clients who are actually planning their internal distribution of drivers and supply and demand based on weather forecasting and how that influences their advertising decision making. And we also take into account such things as what's happening on the financial markets or currency pairs, and basically all sorts of real world signals that could influence your decision without having to know who you are, what gender you are, what your medical conditions are, etc.
Yeah.
It's just more. Yeah.
It sounds like this is part of the AdHash self-hosting, right? Is that, how do you describe then the self-hosting advertisements? How does that work for someone who's got a website, for example, and then us as consumers seeing their site? What you've described is excellent, but is that part of that self-hosting ads situation?
Sort of. It's made possible because of it. And what we mean by being the only self-hosted product is that you don't need to rely on ours or anyone else's database to report information to you as a publisher, as an advertiser. You would have to trust all of those ad tech middlemen if you want the information to be stored in their data centers. However, with AdHash, you take full control. So it's on-premise with you. So not only is all the information secure and not available to any of your competitors, it also means you have the last say as an advertiser what you want to pay for and what you don't want to pay for. So you have the full control in real time over your targeting and whether you're actually getting what you're bargaining for.
Sure.
Because probably not many people outside of the ad industry know this, but ad fraud is now bigger even than credit card fraud. It's a huge global problem, and over $40 billion a year are lost each year to just pure fraud in this space.
Wow.
So anything we can do to help it and to lower that number has a big impact.
Sure. And as consumers, we don't want to be targeted all the time. If the website we're visiting for information that we are seeking requests our email address or other contact info, fine. We may hear from that company, and you can always unsubscribe, hopefully, or send them to spam if they don't stop sending you stuff at your request. But you're not, again, being bombarded now by 20 other companies that are competing with them because you happen to click on an ad accidentally sometimes. So I love the whole concept, and the whole idea of self-hosting advertisements seems like it's working. Do you have a lot of satisfied clients so far? Is that part of the goal here?
Yes, we do. And we are now growing internationally. That's part of the reason why we're visiting Toronto. Hopefully we can not just help our clients, but also inspire the rest of the industry to move away from surveillance and tracking. And I think we're serving as a really compelling test case that you don't need to do surveillance and you don't need to do targeting to actually outperform and to deliver the results that both publishers and advertisers are expecting.
Sure.
I think one very important aspect of limiting the number of tracking middlemen is that you also cut all of their commissions. So it becomes much cheaper to transmit the advertising. We actually cut the commissions 25-fold.
Wow.
Which is it's a huge difference, and it allows publishers to monetize much better while getting advertisers, the same or better prices than they used to be paying in the traditional ecosystem.
It sounds like a win-win-win for everyone involved, except the Googles and Facebooks and Instagrams of the world, because wait a minute, that's what we do. That's our model. We track people. Well, guess what? You don't get to track everybody. And if you use AdHash, perhaps we can change a few minds. So I appreciate it. What motivated you to create AdHash to begin with? Was it frustration with advertising, or did you see a need and jump in on it, or what?
Well, we built two successful products under a company in the ad tech space before, and while the business grew significantly, we weren't really getting anywhere in terms of our mission, which was to improve the advertising supply chain to make it a little bit more transparent and clear. Yeah. And we quickly realized that we could only do so if we fundamentally rewrite the infrastructure on which advertising is being served. So we try to learn from our past mistakes, and we try to commit to what we truly believe in and what we truly think should be done. And as you said, the Googles and Metas of the world, well, they have to adapt or get disrupted. I think the users have spoken. You have over 600 million users worldwide who use ad blockers. Predominantly, by far the strongest reason for people to install ad blockers in studies is because they get frustrated by especially those ads that you mentioned that track you and follow you everywhere you go.
Yeah.
So if you have hundreds and hundreds of millions of people speaking against your business model and what you're doing, you really need to look in the mirror and be more careful about the future of your product and how you want to push it. They're still monopolies, they're still huge, and they have market power, but I think there is a significant shift in not just the technology and what companies are building, but also in terms of regulatory aspects and how regulators in different jurisdictions and also some of the big companies like Apple are pushing against those surveillance models.
Sure. Well, and I'm all for disrupting Meta, Facebook, Insta, all those kinds of things, and Google. Yeah, let's disrupt them. They've had enough of a chance to track us and steal our information and share it and so forth. Enough already. Martin, you're a delight to talk with, and we invite our audience to visit your website at AdHash.com, just like advertising hash, AdHash.com. We'll get you there, of course, when you visit us at IntoTomorrow.com. Martin Stoev, the co-founder and CEO of AdHash, continued good luck at this trade show and good luck with what you're doing. We hope it takes off gigantically.
Thank you, Dave. It's a pleasure talking to you.
Yes, our pleasure. Again, you want to visit AdHash.com. When you hit us up at IntoTomorrow.com, we'll get you to Martin's site, as we do with all of our guests. So meantime, stay tuned. There's more Into Tomorrow to come right after this, right here on the Advanced Media Network.